doesn't seem like 20 years ago, does it? It seems like it's as fresh as yesterday, as they say. But certainly the interview with Walter Micak that we got a couple of days in there was the most agonising I've ever done in my life. It was, how do you talk to a dad who's just lost his two precious daughters and his wife, and the way they were shot. They were effectively executed by this criminal. And so that was terrible. He was, and the thing, as with news, he agreed. I met his parents on the plane going down, and they used to be midday show viewers, and they turned around and saw me when we were going through security, and his mum just cried on my shoulder, and I knew that they had to be associated, and somehow 2 days anyway, on the plane down, they were turning around talking to me all the way down, and the next day he rang and said, "Look, we've got 60 journalists outside the house. I need to talk to somebody. Would you come and talk to me?" And so we went to talk, but we had to get it on that night. And so you're talking with a dad who's agonising and laughing and then crying and then laughing and crying as he talked about his loved ones. And I have to keep saying, we've got to get this on. I've got to leave you. Got to get it on. Anyway, I touched base with him again, and he's pulled up well.
How old were his daughters? 6
and 3. But again, as the details came out in court of that they weren't just shot, they were executed by this bloke. So it was just terrible facts.
How's he now, 20 years on? Has he rebuilt his life? Has he remarried? Has he got more children?
Yep, he married a sports reporter from Channel 7 in Melbourne, and they've got a daughter who's about 14. He lives up in Byron Bay. He's a chemist, and he's got a Byron up there. He's a wonderful bloke, and he's conscious of the fact that I think they've raised about $50 million for the foundation that he named after the daughters.
$50 million?
$50 million they've raised up to now. Yeah, John Bertrand, the Olympic, the America's Cup skipper, is president of his foundation. So they raised that, and that's all for kids who've been sort of either damaged or violated or brutalised around Australia. So
fantastic,
it's worked
amazing.
Of course, it marks a big change in Australia, a turning point for Australia as far as gun law is concerned. Ray, and the courage you've got to say at the time, whether John Howard's your cup of tea or not, the courage he showed at the time and the conviction to put the laws in place, which he was standing up at rallies and fearing for his life, wearing a bulletproof vest. Do you know any other Prime Minister? I mean, we've had some Prime Ministers before and since, but Julia Gillard, Kevin Rudd, Tony Abbott, Malcolm Turnbull. I don't know if those Prime Ministers would have had the gumption to make that change.
No, I wonder too. I mean, certainly it'll be his legacy. No matter, as you say, no matter what you think of other things that John Howard did or didn't do. But he said he had no choice. When I spoke to him the other day about this, we took Walter Micak to meet him, and when you heard Micak's story and you realised how terrible it was. John Howard said, "Look, I had no choice. I had to do it then, even though I think they burned the National Party leader Tim Fisher, Tim Fisher in effigy up in Queensland at that stage, and lots of the National Party voters were gun lovers and are still gun lovers, and Howard had to take them on. That was almost his constituency that he was actually taking on.
What's Bryant doing these days?
He's in jail. He's fat. The amazing thing about Hobart is that it's a small town, despite it being a capital. And I was out filming with the doctor who got the morgue was the hospital, and I was filming with the doctor. Down there when I did that story, and he was walking along the beach, and the doctor had had to fix the 20 people who were shot and look out and identify the bodies of the 35 who'd been killed. And he's just walking along, and a woman came to me and she said, "What are you doing?" And I told her, and she said, "I can tell you about the killer." And I said, "What can you tell me?" She said, "I'm a psych nurse," and she told me exactly the mental hospital where she was working. And then she said, I said, "Will you talk to me on camera?" She said, "No, I can't. My superannuation means I can't for 10 years." But then she began to tell me about how crazy, not mad, this bloke was, and how he used to watch. She said he watched the news in the hospital outside of prison, where he was for about 18 years with her, and she said that he would watch really sad stories and laugh, and she'd say, "What are you laughing for?" He said, I think they're funny."
Wow.
And it was that sort of madness, that sort of craziness anyway. But he's now back in jail in Maximum, and never to be released. I think he got 135 years or something like that.